Home, the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Move for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Yo, Canada and the rest of the world, you're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast. This ain't a solo episode, folks.
Woo.
We're back, better than ever. I'm Theo, living in Kingston, Ontario, originally from the greatest city on the earth, Toronto.
And I'm Danie Proby, back in Canada, and together we are your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate. Now, Theo, it's been a while, my friend. I have been keeping tabs on what you've been up to because I listened to this podcast while I was running in Nottingham. So I know what's going on with you. First of all, I appreciate you doing all the work for the last month to keep this podcast up and running during the busiest Frisbee time in Canada. So you've been holding down the fort. What else have you been up to?
First of all, I appreciate you saying that. What else I've been up to? I've just been playing Frisbee. We'll get to that in the recap, of course, talking about what happened for regionals for me, at least, or my team. But yeah, I've just been playing Frisbee and watching baseball. That's pretty much it. So
nothing's changed.
Nothing has changed. Everything's the same. It's just baseball, Frisbee. That's literally what I do. So I am going to go to the cottage in 2 weeks. So that's not something I do very often. So it's that's something different.
Exciting.
But you are back in the Great White North. Obviously, it's not snowing right now. So we did what the U24 recap happened. So Danie, you weren't able to give all your thoughts on it, but I'll give you a couple of minutes to share kind of your experience. If people follow you on Instagram, they would have seen you posting daily content. But maybe give a snapshot to the people back home or wherever they're listening about your experience in the UK.
Yeah, I guess I've had quite a few really intense coaching experiences. So UBC this season, U20 last cycle, and just any club teams prior to that. And I have to say that this has been probably the most joyful coaching experience I've ever had. And so we were really careful about when we were selecting our players that we were selecting good athletes and good people. And I think it really paid off because this whole cycle has just been so fun. It's just such a great group of kids that a lot of them didn't come from mixed teams. And by the end, we played great mixed ultimate. We were kind of playing for each other. And yeah, I don't think I've ever left a season feeling so connected to a group of athletes. And we only really had 3 training camps and then worlds together. But it was incredible. I'm actually really struggling since coming home, to be honest. The post-tournament depression is real anyway. And it's just exceptionally real with all the stuff I have going on, personally, to have left something that was so vibrant, fun, funny, intense, sad, all of those emotions. The depression is it's been a big crash. And yeah, it's been hard. So I definitely go back to my Instagram, look at the videos of their smiling faces and miss them all a lot. So I'm excited to see a lot of them at CUCs.
Yeah, I mean, folks, if you want to talk some news, we're going to get to that eventually. But CUC, the field is set. So there's a lot to talk about related to that. But I want to say a shout out to this is definitely coaching, but also the players involved. Out of all the 3 teams, your team had the most, what is it? I think the way I said it was you had the most double-digit scores. You had a lot of scoring and contributions from across the board. So that's just a testament to kind of the depth of the roster you chose and also people getting or contributing in different ways.
Yeah, I think the thing that our coaching staff felt really proud of is our ability to kind of pivot and recognize who's rising to the occasion. And so we didn't kind of ride the same 7 if it wasn't working, for example. And so I think that really helped. Like we don't see that style of like Asian zone like that Singapore and Japan did on us. We didn't see those in our training camps. And so we just needed to like get people on the field, see who could work through it, and then adjust. And I think in both the semifinal and the bronze medal games, we were in quite a big deficit to start both of those games. We started down 3 breaks. And in both games, the momentum was ours. And if the game was a little longer, I think that we would have won both of those. Like we were probably we were the closest team to being in finals of all 3 Team Canada teams. And I think that's because of the depth, because like when we come to an issue or a couple players maybe aren't playing at their potential, I'm not saying that that's necessarily what happened for us, but we had a lot of different options. So I felt really good about that. I felt proud about our mixed play. It was definitely intentional. We had to create a lot of spaces for us to kind of develop that aspect of our game. But yeah, our team is deep. A lot of that had to do with team selection, like how Ultimate Canada does team selection now. And so in theory, we didn't have like some superstars. We just had a lot of like really talented grinder athletes. And I think that actually helped us in the long run. So yeah, I feel really proud. I feel really good. Obviously it would have been great to medal and we were close. But I feel like my team specifically had this grind that I've never seen before. And this like belief that even when you're down, every Frisbee is yours. I've never seen anything like it before. To be down 10-4 and to be like one bad call from the other team away from tying the game, that's incredible. So I'm definitely inspired by every athlete on my team. And I feel like I've leveled up my defense just from watching them.
The note you brought about the Asian zone, it sounds like the next step for Team Canada, you talk about how like I talked a little bit about last week, what we can do. The next step is to have training camps at like an Asian tournament. That's kind of what I'm hearing here, is to get experience playing against these like Asian teams. That would be obviously it's a lot of money, but that'd be kind of next level because that's not something you see ever here. So yeah, obviously it's kind of far-fetched, but hey, one can dream that we could have camps over in like Japan or somewhere else where you get to practice against that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely something that Ultimate Canada needs to kind of be exposing our athletes to a little bit earlier as well, because it's a different style of offense against it. A different style of player works against it too. And that's not typically how we've built our Team Canada teams from what I can see. And we had a mixture of like the small squirrely feral athletes and like the big athletes. And I think that helped. So having a really balanced roster was very necessary.
And you got to see my team and who I got to play with this past weekend. Pete, all fingerprints all over helping out. So shout out to him as well. Danny, we could catch up all episode if we wanted to. I mean, we haven't talked a lot post tournament here and lots going on. I will say, trying to follow the team, you know, us, especially East Coast, actual East Coasters, but like east of Canada, like waking up early to watch these games here, you got to give some love out to the people who got up early, or in the case of the West Coast, stayed up till like, 4 a.m. or I don't even know how early it was or late it was. But a lot of people supporting you and the time zones throwing things off. But that's something I want to know too, is all the people, not just myself, but like people who stayed up to watch and support. I saw it all over social media.
We also, one more anecdote around fans. We played GB, Great Britain, in our final power pool game, which mattered. It meant like being on the easier side of quarters. We're playing Great Britain in power pools, and we had more fans than they did, and they were the home team. We felt like the home team. We had so many parents there supporting and cheering, being so loud, starting like "Go Leafs, go" cheers. It was awesome. So thank you, fans.
Thank you, fans. So we're going to catch up more. This will be like off the air. We're going to, for those obviously listening here to this podcast, we're going to keep going. We got lots of news coming at you. Some Canadian teams did pretty well in the United States. Main events, we got regionals recap. No borders happening this weekend, kind of the first or the last big tournament for nationals, at least on this side of the country. So we'll be right back as we hit the news.
We now have breaking news.
All right, news time. Lots to go over. First, want to talk about some CUC news. There's going to be a special kind of surprise announcement in the BC recap that Danie will get to share about a team. But There were some questions if this pickup team from Quebec, the Flat Ballers, if they were going to go, and some people weren't sure. They only have 16 people on the roster, folks, so people weren't sure if they're actually going to go, but they confirmed to me that they are going, and they kind of started a social media account as well. So Flat Ballers, they'll be the third seed out of Quebec. They'll be going. Be interested to see how they do, of course. They have some legends out there, but they never practiced, at least before that tournament. Hopefully they practice before nationals, because otherwise it might be tough sledding out here for them. But kind of cool to see a team just like rise out of the ashes, play, and then make it to nationals. And now they're actually going and confirmed that they're going there.
Yeah, we see a lot of that in BC too, just these teams popping up out of nowhere. So
we'll have some discussions about that and when we talk BC. So let's talk Boston Invite. First, we're going to talk about the men's division here. General strike. First of all, congrats for going all the way from Winnipeg to Boston. That's like not cheap to do that. I assume you didn't drive. They go 4-0 in pool play, and kind of just like show that they deserve the number one seed. Kind of cool to see the tournament director honor General strike. I know they probably saw that they won nationals last year in Canada, but to auto just give them the first seed overall, and then to be proven right, that's kind of cool. Regiment out of Newfoundland goes 0-4. So tough for them, but I just like the experience they got from playing this tournament. Will help them when they go to nationals. And then Manic out of Montreal goes 2-2 in pool play. They finished third. And unfortunately for this tournament, there were some issues with weather. There was issues with weather at our Ontario regionals. The fields were like a swamp. My cleats are still stained with dirt. So it definitely affected teams in Boston. So General Strike was up on the 2-seed overall Blueprint, featuring one of Ultiworld's own Patrick Stegemeller. They were up 6-3, and then the game got canceled. So I guess General Strike on their social media said they won with an asterisk. So I guess they won Boston Invite, but it doesn't really count because they didn't complete the games. But Danny, the bigger issue is that if they want to earn bids, they're going to have to like play more sanctioned games out here.
yeah, have you looked at frisbeerankings.com and where General Strike lands at this current moment?
That's a good question. I have not.
Because I know that those were just posted recently. Shout out to Traffic for having the number one spot overall right now over Molly,
Wait, really?
Fury,
That's
and
sick too.
Flipside. Yes.
It's kind of hype.
Yeah. Thank you, Algorithm, and thank you, Traffic, for absolutely slaying. So I would definitely be curious. I think, as you said, them getting the number one seed is really cool, and I think that just shows a smart tournament directing because of their success last year. I think you can count this as a tournament win. They were like clearly the favorites to win.
Well, you're pointing me to Frisbee rankings. I'm looking there right now. They are currently ranked number 5 in the USAU algorithm. So General Strike is number 5. They're the first seed out of the North Central. So you got to get more games in General Strike because that will not stay.
How many games do they have total right now? 4, 5?
5. They have 5.
Does
They need
that semi
5 more,
count?
Right? Ooh, let me take a look. They counted that semi.
Okay, so 5. So they need to go to one more tournament. Also, I like how in the USAU schedule it says first pals. They have a typo. It makes me laugh. Big organizations make typos too. First pals.
Yeah.
All right, so
it's all good
they're ranked
there.
5 overall. So they're ahead of Furious right now.
They should be. Yep, they're 5, and then Furious is 6 right now.
Okay. So yeah, obviously lots of teams haven't played sanctioned games yet. So those things will shift, but that's a really good start to have gotten that many points early season. And I know that they kind of like degrade a little bit as the season progresses. I think the later games are more heavily weighted, but good job, Strike. Go out there, keep crushing.
Yeah, Manic got a big win over Lantern, the 6th seed in the tournament, 11-10. So they were rebounding from a disappointing finish at Quebec Regionals. In the classic pool, we also had Sherbrooke Ascension. They finished 3-1. So once again, they couldn't really continue their path in the tournament just because of the weather. Ascension is a team that choosing not to go to Canadian tournaments really this year, so they're playing more American tournaments. They're not playing the Canadian series. So that's an interesting choice and something that we always advocate for playing different tournaments and stuff. So now we're going to go to women's. So I counted, Danny, 1, 2, 5 Canadian teams that finished like top 2 in their pool. So that's pretty like beastly, I'm going to say. Iris and Vintage both finished top 2 in Pool A, with Iris going 3-0, and then Sage finishes 3-0. They blow their seed out of the water. They're the 3rd seed in the pool, and they go 3-0. Venus takes their pool, and then Tempest goes 1-1 to take 2nd in their pool. So you gotta love the results. But for Iris, they're playing another tournament, I believe, as well. They need to get their sanction games in because of this like weather situation. So it's affecting like more than just one team.
Do you have on hand what they're currently ranked at?
Hey, this is where we ad lib right here live.
No, I shouldn't have asked you that, but it's okay. People need to know what's going on behind the scenes.
Right now, Iris is 17. So out of earning a bid for the Northeast. If things ended today, I think the Northeast, is this right? Only has 1 bid? That can't be right. I guess Sixers hasn't really played anything yet in the States, so that's probably part of it. So the early season, right? Because even the bids, like, they'll change a lot.
Yes, they change tons.
Or at least in college, it will change like when they throw out games, like in college.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many teams that haven't played yet. So these games could either like be weighted more heavily in Iris's favor or less heavily, depending upon where these other teams land. But yeah, they do definitely need to play another tournament if they want to try to earn a bid. I'm not sure if they usually play enough games or if they just go to regionals, but I mean, they're obviously strong enough.
I was told that they are planning to, they were going to go to something else, like a scrimmage or something sanctioned, so that they could do that. They were up 8-3 on Wave, the 2nd seed in the tournament, in quarters, and that one on the USAU site is registered as final. And in the algorithm, it's considered final.
Okay.
Once again, this is not USAU's website, just for those, like, this is Cody Mills.
He uses the same algorithm,
but he
basically.
But I'm saying it's not coming officially from USAU.
Yes.
They could always do something funky, which, sometimes can happen.
The amount of accuracy, though, it's pretty darn good.
Yeah. No, Cody Mills is a legend.
Yes.
So.
Shout out for sure.
Yeah, shout out. Hey, you folks, you might have missed our favorite word, shout out. So you're going to get more of that as Danie is back.
Shout out.
So Boston Invite, technically, I guess we're going to crown Iris and General Strike winners. We're just going to say that.
Canada.
Because they won de facto. But there's a team that actually won. So we got to talk about them.
Like won a different tournament that is a Canadian team at an American tournament? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's what I was trying to segue you into, yes.
I love it. I'm a little slow in the segues. It's been a while. So Select Flight West, Furious George comes home with the W. I think that was their expectation going into the tournament. The team that they were most excited to play for dropped out last minute, which was unfortunate.
What team was that?
I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's the team with all the X's and the Y's and the Z's.
Oh, Zizova? Ziz. Yeah, Ziz out of Berkeley. Yeah.
So they had a good game against them last tournament, and so they were excited to play them again this tournament. But the storyline of the tournament is just that it was like 40 degrees the whole time, and so they were playing less games. They actually had a start, I believe, at 6:30 or 6 a.m. on Sunday just to avoid the heat, which was, I mean, obviously necessary. They were taking like 5-minute like heat breaks in between games and everything like that. But yeah, rough times. Anyway, so Furious ended up winning their games quite handedly. And they knew that they needed to try to bonus these teams in order to do well in the rankings, because I think that they did well enough at their last tournament to be quite high up, and they just needed to kind of crush in order to keep that. And I think most of their games still made them negative points, even though they're winning like 15-5, 15-8, just because the caliber of the opponent isn't high enough for them to earn points. But basically, they're just in damage control, and I think that they did a really good job. So they got to play against Anchor from San Francisco. They got to play against Drought from Scottsdale, Arizona, which is pretty cool. And then there's a team called Hazard from LA and ISO Atmo from Boulder. I guess that's how you'd say it.
Yeah, ISO Atmo.
Oh, no, I know that. So anyways, the biggest storyline, I think, other than the heat, is that they got to go watch the new Mission Impossible movie. And now a lot of their sideline cheers are like, da-da-da.
Oh gosh, we'll see that at Nationals. What you're telling me,
so I think that good bonding times all around. So I want to do a specific shout out for Spencer, who's on Furious. He's like a new player. He was on Emerald City before and got cut from Sockeye, and the Fears picked him up and they're like, this guy's goated. Why isn't he playing? And apparently he popped off. And then also a shout out to Jordan McGregor for just general overall sick playing, that apparently had like the sickest, craziest layout catch. So we love to see people popping off, and it's hard to make those kind of plays when it's hot. So good job.
Yeah, 40 Celsius does not sound fun. I played No Borders a couple years ago where it was like probably in the mid 30s and probably felt like 40. And I actually suffered like some heat issues. Like I got chills and like I couldn't play anymore. And I was like, oh Lord, this is bad.
Yeah.
Like it was not good. It was not good. When you get chills and it's hot out, that's a problem.
That's when you know. That's when you know for sure. So yeah, good job, Furious. They end up winning their final by like doubling the other team's score. So I'm sure they got to work on their systems, but efficiency was the name of the game.
Yeah, and just want to circle back quickly to Boston Invite because forgot to mention Harfang, which is the top Quebec team. They were in the classic pool in their division, and they went 3-1. So once again, they couldn't finish their path to the bracket, but they would have been in the semis against Funk. So they would have had a chance to win the title, but they're also killing it out here. We're going to go over to Colorado. So, I'm not sure if you know, audience, that Danie and I are both Masters eligible. So we are both Masters eligible, and there's a Masters tournament happening in Colorado. So a few Canadian teams are going. Specifically, I'll talk first about Masters Open. That's 4 pools of 4, and Ensom is going out of Montreal. They're in a tough pool because they have Boneyard. They're listed as Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, but they basically have all the like ex-Ring of Fire players. And I actually don't think they're favorite because the 1 seed is Voltron 2020, which is like all ex-Sockeye players. And I swear those 2 teams, like if you put them into like just the quote-unquote regular Open, I still think they would kill it out here. Just some absolute legends. Also in the pool is Wasted Talent out of Lincoln, Nebraska, and then Gravy Train out of Seattle, Washington. So I'm always interested in the names that they come up with for this because it's like, these are teams that probably don't practice that much, or they just kind of spring up together. Sometimes they have names off of their club name, which is cool. If you finish first or second, you make quarters in your pool. And if you finish third or fourth, you're kind of in the 9th place quarters. So I'm kind of on that bubble line as the 9 seed, where they could end up potentially in quarters, or they could end up in kind of the 9th place area. So they also have a Grandmasters Open team that's also going to be there. That team is seeded last in their pool and 14th overall. They have to play Johnny Walker, which is related to Johnny Bravo, of course, out of Denver. Burnside 40 out of Portland, Oregon, and then Reckon out of Nashville, Tennessee. So same setup as Masters, where they have like the first and second go to top 8, and then 3 and 4 go to 9th place quarters. We also have Grandmasters Women's. Shout out to Ottawa's own Solstice out here, the 4 seed overall. They're gonna have a different setup. They have 4 pools, but some of them have 3 teams, some of them have 4. Solstice pool has 4 teams. They have Prime, the 7 seed overall, to Chicago. Infernal, love that name, out of Texas, and Off Their Rockers out of San Francisco, California. If you finish first and second in your pool, you make the quarterfinals. So that's kind of their setup. And you think they're the only team? Like, nah, there's another team out of Ottawa. It's the Women's Grandmasters, Silver Sisters. There's only 6 teams in this division. I don't even know. Oh, sorry, not Grandmasters. I think it's Great Grandmasters, actually. So I don't know what the age is for Great Grandmasters, but I love that there's 6 teams going. That's kind of cool. There's teams from like Boston, Seattle, Berkeley, San Fran, and Cincinnati, Ohio in this pool. So they're going to play pool play, and then the first and second will fight for the finals. So, Danie, have you played a USAU Masters National Championship?
Absolutely not.
Do you want to one day?
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. Like once I'm retired from senior ultimate.
Oh gosh,
Regular,
we gotta use senior.
Regular,
we gotta
ultimate.
use senior. Yeah, we gotta use senior, else we'll get in trouble.
Yeah,
So.
I know. I think it would be fun to like run it back with some old teammates and go play in the States.
Yeah, well, some of your old teammates played in a tournament that we're going to talk about very shortly from now. We're just going to quickly do AUDL recap. Toronto, first of all, congratulations that you did not get beaten by the Detroit Mechanics, because the Mechanics have not won a game in, I think, 6 or 7 years. 70 plus game losing streak. Toronto maybe a little bit nervous that they would be the ones to give up the streak, but it's not the case. They go in and crush Detroit here. They had 3 straight quarters with 7 goals and a 50% break percentage, which is like kind of insane. James Lewis, 7 goals, a block. Ryan Polaz, 6 assists, throwing 5 goals from Adam O'Donnell. And then Luke Comiri, I don't know how he pulled this off. He got 3 blocks and he's an offensive center handler. So somehow, some way he got 3 blocks out here. So maybe that's good, but also not good that your offense is giving your star center handler block opportunities. But anywho, they're going to finish their season against DC and Philly this weekend. It's actually really important for them. If they can win out, they got to get some help, because even on the AUDL site, it says Toronto/Boston for the last spot. So they need some help, but dreams are not dashed. They got to win both of these games though. And then Montreal finishes out their season against Boston, New York. And I believe Toronto will need Montreal to beat Boston. So they're going to be watching with bated breath and grabbing their fingers and hoping. But that's the news recap. We're going to jump in to main event number 1. We're going to talk regionals. We're going to start out in the West with BC, then Ontario, and then I'll do a preview of No Borders. And if you're there, you can say as well. We'll get all to that right after the break.
Hey, this is Kelsey Hayden from Halifax Salty, and I'm a writer for Ultiworld. You're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
Welcome to the main event, part 1. We're sticking with BC for now. I might not be joining for the Ontario regional section because Theo didn't announce this in the news.
I did not. I feel bad. I should have.
The biggest news is that it is currently my birthday. And as a grown-ass woman, you make sure to tell everybody it's your birthday. I actually really hate my birthday. So I'm going to go shopping and then go have some dinner. And it'll be great. So going to talk about BC regionals. So first of all, it was quite exciting, not as much for the women's division as it was for the mixed division. So I'm going to start with the women's division because it was a little bit more chill, I guess you could say. And so basically there were teams that were playing. And so there's 6 teams in, and 2 of those teams were Masters teams. And then basically 3 bids and 3 teams wanting the bids. And so I think like Drive, yes, but I don't know if Drive was looking to go to nationals. I think they're a regional team. They're a developmental team. So it was not exactly the most exciting tournament for the women's division, but it was exciting for me to see who would end up getting the bid, the second seed out of BC, out of Drift and Hucklebears. So Drift being the second women's team in Vancouver and Hucklebears being the number 1 team coming out of Victoria. Now I'm quite excited by this Drift team. They are quite a bit stronger than last year and faster, more throwing talent. And so I knew that their game against Hucklebears was going to be really good. Both Drift and Hucklebears put a lot of pressure on traffic at certain points and did a good job to kind of fight through our zone. And so that was kind of like the marquee matchup that I was looking for on Sunday. Vans was also there. They're a Masters team of basically ex-traffic players. They're really, really good. They were laughing at our zone as they were throwing over top of it and around it. And they're going to be really good at nationals. So I was excited to play against them. It's a lot of friends playing. And yeah, there's going to be, do you know how many teams for Masters Women's there's going to be at CUCs per chance? Because I know there's only 6 in the open Masters division.
Well, you got me there because I do not know off the top of my head. We are going to preview Masters next week. So we'll have all that for you. But I'm more than certain that it's definitely more than open, like Masters,
which is,
like for sure.
I assumed so, which is exciting. And I love that. So there are a lot of mixed Masters teams, but the fact that there's going to be so many Masters women's teams as well is awesome. And I think that this BC team is going to be sick. So
one of the faves
definitely.
For sure.
I mean, I'm biased, but so for traffic specifically, because they had just played a tournament the weekend before, which was a pretty intense tournament, we kind of were a little bit low numbers. And so we had 15 or 16 players for the weekend. So our whole goal was like, okay, we're going to work on our zones exclusively. So our coaches and our captains pushed us outside of our comfort zone. We got to try a lot of new things. We're pushing the pace, playing like stall 3 ultimate. And so it results in a lot of turnovers, of course, but it made for some really exciting, fun games. Another thing is that traffic, as I said earlier, is number 1 in the USAU rankings right now. I don't know if that's like ever happened. So we're going to try to hold on to that. I know that they got the US Open coming up soon. And then we have the whatever Labor Day tournament. What's that one called again? Pro Champs as well.
Pro Champs out here.
So goal is to try to stay up there in the rankings. They did awesome. I know you already recapped that, but they did awesome last weekend. So not much else to say. So Hucklebears end up taking the number 2 seed and Drift rather takes the number 3 seed. So we're going to move on to the mixed division. Muy caliente, very spicy.
Oh yeah.
Like, I almost wish that the women's regionals was another weekend so I could have just watched the entire time. But there were lots of buys and opportunities to watch throughout. But like, I was losing count of what teams were what and like where all my friends are playing. Because a lot of the people that are playing like summer only or practice roster for traffic are spread out on all these teams. A lot of my UBC kids spread onto these teams. TCU 24 kids spread out onto all these teams. Like, these teams came out of nowhere this season that don't normally exist, because Nationals is in BC. And so we knew it was going to be #Drama Llama. So Strawberry Kitty Kisses is a team that I want to shout out specifically because I am obsessed with their jerseys. They're going to do a reorder. So if you see it on their Instagram, they have an Instagram now, go follow their Instagram. Their jerseys are sick. It's like a pale pink full kit, and I love it. I think it looks great.
You're gonna get one?
I'm gonna get something. I'll get the reversible. I think it's nice because I already have like pale pink shorts, so I can already like make up the kit. But I'm a fan of their team. I know that I like kind of call out some of these teams for not having existed and only existing because of CUCs, but both Strawberry Kitty Kisses and the Blaze team have been going to tournaments. And so I saw Blaze at Sunflicker, and Strawberry Kitty Kisses I know went to Big Thirst as well. So they've been putting in the work. And so I kind of had a feeling that they were going to end up doing better. Now, Full Send Cat has a lot of players that are household names in BC Ultimate. Janelle Siwa is, for example, Annie Wang, both really talented handlers. And I think they didn't end up doing as well this tournament as they would have hoped. They did pretty well at Disc Flicker, but they ended up taking 7th place overall in this event. So the drama is that there was Masters teams, and I know that there's Masters teams in the Eastern regionals as well, and there were Masters teams in the women's division, and I think in Open there were teams competing at regionals that weren't actually qualifying for that division. And I think for most divisions that didn't really matter, but for this division where there's so many teams vying for so few bids compared to how good these teams are, I can understand why it ruffled some feathers, because there's a Masters team, Yop, who was the number 1 seed in Pool B, ended up like winning quite a few games and making it into semis. So it does disrupt some of the team's pathways to getting bids. And it's impossible to know. At the end of the day, you just need to win your games. And like, that's that. And there are lots of opportunities for teams to get back into bid contention because there's like backdoor routes, etc. But I can understand why there might be some animosity towards why Ultimate Canada does this, why BC Ultimate allowed this. Yes, Theo.
Was there actual chatter like on the fields about it?
Tons.
Like were people because I know in Ontario, I brought it up in the preview that there was a regionals only team in KWG that spoiler, they don't end up finishing in the top 7. But if they did finish in the top 7, then that game to go is essentially not a game to go because both teams would have made it. So it happened actually in BC. So there was chatter about it. I saw a tweet, calling out the silly guy on the podcast not picking their team. So, we love it all. But yeah, it sounds like there was actual chatter.
Yeah.
Like people.
Tons. Like I heard it constantly. And I also heard people saying like, how does this guy not know who our roster is? I was like, Theo in Ontario doesn't know who the Strawberry Kitty Kisses are. Like, relax.
First of all, I do know the Strawberry Kitty Kisses because they got Aiden McGibbon. They got a lot of U20 ex-Eclipse players out here. So
I know. And I just think it's funny that like these teams that have literally just evolved this year or just like were created this year, they're like, how does he not get these rankings correct? But it means that they're listening. And so I appreciate that. So to break down the tournament a little bit, we had the number 1 seeds, Red Flag, Yop, which is Justin's Garden Tools or something. It's going to be a mixed masters team that I'm going to be competing against. Super Dumplings, TT were all the number 1 seeds of their respective pools. And so obviously Red Flag kind of took care of business. They were missing quite a few people who were still traveling for U24s, but no worries. They kind of just cruised through all of their games. Now Yop also makes it through to semifinals. Super Dumplings, I think that they could admit that they had a sort of a disappointing tournament. They lost to Yop in quarters and just kind of couldn't make it happen. They ended up losing to TT in the backdoor route. And then we had Full Send Cat lost to Strawberry Kitty Kisses. This is a very exciting quarter because it was the Battle of the Cats, which I am obsessed with. So Strawberry Kitty Kisses end up winning that one by 2. And then BC Blaze, which is kind of like a throwback to like the old mixed team name back in the days before they had to switch it because of the insinuation of the word Blaze. But basically it's like Cole Keffer and like a Delaney, like it's so many good players on that team. They end up beating Fight Club, which is also a really strong team. And so that set up a Blaze Strawberry Kitty Kisses semifinal. So both teams at this point have now qualified. So we have Red Flag taking the number 1 seed, and then we have Blaze beating Strawberry Kitty Kisses to take the number 2 seed overall. Strawberry Kitty Kisses, the exciting new team, taking the 3rd seed overall. So we now have a very, very dramatic game to go. So we have TT playing against Fight Club. And there's a lot of chatter as well about like how these teams they go every year, they do proper tryouts, they practice 3 times a week, they're trying to make mixed #legitimate in BC. And then all of a sudden, when nationals is in your province, all these teams kind of pop up out of nowhere and potentially take those bids. And I remember this happening in the women's division. Like Traffic doesn't go to nationals. And so they don't help earn like strength bids, size bids, whatever. Well, not strength bids, but like size bids for future years. And so like say it's in Brampton, Traffic doesn't go, but say Drift goes and whoever else goes. But then when it's actually in their province, now Traffic's like, sure, we'll go. And then they end up taking a bid. Anyways, I think that like there's something that you can say about the teams that want to go every year getting kind of bumped by teams that just kind of pop up out of nowhere. But again, at the end of the day, you just need to win the games. And so TT is playing against Fight Club, and it was tight at the beginning, like 3-3 kind of thing. And then Fight Club just went on a big run and got a bunch of breaks all in a row. And then all of a sudden TT was starting to get breaks. I think they ended up getting 4 breaks straight. It felt like that anyway. And the momentum was all in TT's place, but I know that they do this at certain tournaments where you have to score to win. And I feel like they should have to do that at regionals too. Because Fight Club ended up winning even though they hadn't scored in like 5 points.
Tis, because all I gotta say is Ontario, we had that. We were so fired up about this rule, soft cat rule. So we played with it. Horn goes off, you add 1 to the highest score, and then that team has to score let's say, for example, our game against Crux, the horn went off. It was a game to 14, and the team has to score the 14th point to win. So you cannot be the losing team. And so I think that's what's going to be at nationals. But I love that for a lot of tournaments. You have to have obviously a bigger time window. We have way longer breaks in between, but it allows a team to actually feel like they won, and like the losing team to feel like, okay, they earned it because they didn't just run out of time.
Yeah, I think especially for like maybe not in pool play, like I can understand when they need to stick to a time limit, especially in bad weather where some points can take a long time. But for the bid games or the final game slots, like for 3rd, for 1st, for a bid, I think you should have to score to win. Anywho, Fight Club ends up winning, and so they get the bid. So now TT thinks that their season is over. Theo, you sent me a message the next morning. What did it say?
Well, it said that a team from Quebec had dropped out. So a team from Quebec, I don't know if I can say which team yet because I don't know if it's public. So I'm just going to say a team from Quebec dropped out, because TT posted this. So I'll just go off of what's public record. And so, yeah, TT, they did a little juke on their post saying that the season was up and down. And then they said, hey, we're actually going to national. So as someone who plays on a team that practices and is part of a team that has a long-standing history, I do love the fact that a team with long-standing history also gets to go to nationals. So
yeah, I was heartbroken when they didn't get the opportunity. Fight Club deserves to be there too. Extremely strong team. I just wished that BC had more bids, and here we go. The wish came true. We originally thought we had 5 bids for the region, and then we ended up with 5 bids. So, I mean, we could use 7. It'd be sweet to have like Super Dumplings and like Full Send Cat also be able to go, but c'est la vie. Final drama that I want to talk about, and this is another thing that was being chattered about quite a bit on the field. I heard it at the stands. I mean, for this like final game, all the other teams are done, and so the atmosphere was pretty cool. The fields were like lined. We were live streaming it. It was pretty exciting, but I did hear a lot of people talking about how they thought it was unfair that teams, like these random teams, were picking up players, really good players, like their best players even, that had no intention of playing in nationals. So they're just like a super pickup to try to get a bid. And I could understand how that would feel bad if you're a team that does a tryout, has a team roster and it's set, and you go to tournaments, etc., and you pick up like World Games level players and they don't play CUCs. So I don't know how to fix this. If it needs to be fixed, I don't know if I have a strong opinion. I can just understand. I can empathize without having my own super duper opinion. But I feel like if your players aren't planning on playing nationals, it's hard to police intent. But
you can't police it, but that's the definition of a ringer. Like if I ever heard one, it's when we talk about ringers, that's literally a ringer, someone you're bringing in just to help you win that specific tournament and not like further. So yeah, I totally get the sentiment, but of course you can't, like, this happens to teams. Captains experience this. Everyone that tries out says that they can go to X, Y, and Z tournament. And then come the tournament, you're like, oh, 5 of our players who said they were coming on the tryout form 2 months ago now say they can't go. And it's like, you can't control, people changing and stuff like that. Yeah. I will say, I had 3 out of 4 teams. Well, I'm not counting TT because there was no 5th bid when I made these picks. 3 out of 4 teams I got right. Strawberry Kitty Kisses, you proved me wrong out here, so I'll always give some love for that.
Maybe you should get a jersey too, and you should wear it at nationals.
Yeah, the youngsters showing me up out here because they got the bid. I actually had Full Send Cat going in, as you mentioned. They had a tournament to forget, at least for them. I don't know if these teams will exist next year. Maybe they'll come back. You never know. So also, Hucklebears getting the victory over Drift. I did not pick that either. So, hey, teams proving me wrong out here in these streets.
I want to know what you think about this ringer thing, though. Do you have an opinion?
Well, I, first of all, did not know this. I think I know who you're talking about. There's multiple ringers. Okay. Let's just say like it was not one team, but when I'm going to speak specifically to the one I was talking about last episode, which is Ty Barbieri playing for Blaze. I didn't know he was playing until someone like, I think Kali Mott maybe told me. And so I just messaged Ty myself and was like, hey, are you actually playing? And he's like, yeah, I'm playing like regionals. I'm like, oh, aren't you playing GOAT? He said, not playing GOAT for CUC. So from what I can tell, he's not playing CUC at all. Or potentially that might change. People change their mind. But it's, I love the pickup story teams that come up and win. Like Too Bad almost did that. Spoiler alert for the Ontario recap. But I also get the teams that grind and like work hard all year. There might be a way to like have insured teams don't just like pick up players, I guess, for like regionals where they have to like play a tournament with like a certain amount of the roster like before, something like that. Like, I guess at USAU, you don't have to play any tournaments to earn a bid. You can still play the postseason, but there's got to be something. I don't know. It's like, what is the aim of these tournaments? Is it to like have the best players go, or like the teams that like work hard all year and like try to build a program to develop players long term?
Yeah, I've heard from some people that they think that it's maybe not against any like Ultimate Canada rules, but it's definitely against Spirit, which I think is an interesting take and a take that I could understand as well. So I kind of live in both of these spaces.
Why is it against Spirit?
To like intentionally pick up somebody for regionals that is not planning on playing at CUCs, just to try to like take a bid from a team that has had their entire roster set. Like, so that's their take.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say that take out loud on the air. And I would actually like to hear from more people kind of how they feel about this, and if Ultimate Canada is going to do anything, about having Masters teams compete in contentious regionals, and B, having people compete at regionals that have no intention of competing at nationals.
Yeah, I have a stronger opinion about the former because I said it already. I don't like it.
Yeah,
I'm going to be straight up. I don't like it.
I liked how they did it in the women's division where they were just like extra games for us.
Sure,
but they didn't like impact anything.
Bracket implications, not good in my opinion.
Yeah.
It just throws things off. It's like, for example, the team I was playing on, we had 2 Masters teams in our pool. We're the only pool that had the 2 Masters teams. So like we're just playing Masters teams and we're not even playing teams that like we'll play again like during the season. So that was like it would be nice to play a team that we could like kind of feel out and kind of get a sense of who they are. Like there's a couple teams we haven't played much. Even though we're playing in primarily Ontario tournaments. So yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I'll state my opinion pretty loud about that. If the Masters teams want to play, I think there's other ways that you can get them involved to kind of have them together, or like try to do like a scrimmage or something with the adult teams or the senior teams. But to kind of throw a wrench in the senior regionals, I'm not a fan. I'm going to be straight up, not a fan of it.
I think it definitely, if we're wanting to move more into making this Canadian regional national system more legitimate and more exciting for the top teams, I think we need to fix this. Again, it was fine in women's. It actually allowed us to get more games, and we had good game, like a really good game against this Vans team, and it was nice to have all of our qualifying games on Saturday and then some extra games on Sunday. I think that is the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, and this is, by the way, speaking as both, as I already mentioned, 2 Masters eligible players out here.
Almost Grandmasters, as you reminded me earlier.
Oh yeah, I realized that was probably a bad thing to do, but
why? It's getting older is not a problem, Theo. It makes me feel good that I can be older and still wreck some people that are like 15 years younger than me. So
hey, I mean, in the Bible, like being old is considered like very like good.
In a lot of cultures.
A lot of cultures, like it's like wisdom, but also like you're granted favor for being older. So don't fret on being old, Danie.
I'm not.
And myself. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I still want to relive my youth. I think like I tried to get the Pit Vipers going like for our team, and I realized like, man, I am not 20, and I was like, oh, mullets and Pit Vipers, pretty hype, and it's like, oh man, I'm not that age anymore. So some growing up to do here is what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's a growing up's a choice. I choose not to.
All right, so that concludes main event number, well, I guess 1A. Gonna jump into Ontario Regionals recap after this.
Yeah, gonna go do some birthday stuff. So thanks everybody for having me back, and I will see you next episode, but Theo's gonna take it the rest of the way.
This is Michael Kukushka, head coach of Toronto GOAT, and you're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
All right, main event 1B here. We're talking Ontario Regionals up here. We'll start in junior women's. And I want to clarify something I said last episode. I said there were 5 bids. I was incorrect. There's actually only 4 bids. So there was a game to go, which I did not pick, but there was a game to go. So we'll talk first about what kind of happened in pool play. So everything kind of went to seed except for Chain Reaction. Durham's Finest. They get a big dub over Uproar. So huge victory for them, kind of rebranded. And from my knowledge, they didn't have like a full just, I think they had some female matching players playing with their boys team last year, if I'm not mistaken, but they're out here playing the junior women's division. They get a big 13-12 win. It's actually the first game of their tournament. So kind of a nice way to start things off here for them. And then, of course, we get into bracket play or like first place game. So that was Wicked West defeating Toro 14-6. Wicked West, just in general, were killing it. Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see their score lines here. They won every game. They either had a score of 15 and then one game, I believe they had a score of 14. Well, looks like it's all 15. And then they gave up very few points. They bageled a couple teams. Toro put up 6 on them in pool play. But other than that, it was like They're clearly showing plus minus of 68 according to the document here. So clearly the best juniors team out of Ontario, and clearly a contender for a medal and potentially a final showdown with the team that I think is the clear favorite in Dino out of BC. So Wicked West finishes first, Toro second, Wicked East third. And then we set up this game to go action happening here. And Uproar avenges their loss to Chain Reaction and wins in the game to go 7-5. So Uproar, second team out of Toronto, they are going. So there's 2 teams from Toronto and 2 teams from Ottawa going. Pretty cool for those programs. And that leads us into Junior Open. I wasn't able to watch most or any of these games. The stuff that I can report on is the games I was able to watch once I wasn't playing. But playing, it was a little difficult to catch all of the action. There were so many things happening. So Junior Open, there were 2 pools. The top seeds kind of take their pools with ease here. Toro and Ignite. Uproar comes second in Pool B. But the thing to note there is Chain Reaction again, just coming out, taking names out here. They go 2-2 in pool play, including a huge win over the Peterborough team Rogue Squadron 15-2. So they actually end up reseeded as third out of Pool B after when's all said and done in pool play here. And then Fuel, the development team of Ottawa, defeats the development team of Toronto Havoc. So Fuel and Havoc, maybe those players are going to continue to battle throughout the years as they grow up and become top juniors players. There was a final between Ignite and Toro. Ignite takes it 11-9. In the third place game, Uproar defeats Chain Reaction 10-7. Scorch goes on to beat Fuel 15-1. Blaze will be the last seed of Ontario as Fuel is not attending. So Ignite, Toro, Uproar, Chain Reaction, Scorch, and then Blaze are the teams that'll be going out of Ontario. And I'll just take a look and confirm what I said in the picks. So I want to see what I had there. I did have Ignite winning. So I had Ignite and Wicked West winning. I actually had Scorch coming in third, which is incorrect. So way to prove me wrong there for the teams involved as Uproar got third. So that's juniors, but along with juniors, there's also women's happening out here. So something talked about earlier is the weather. So the weather was a factor. Some games had to be moved around, fields shifted. So some teams had to like go into turf and things like that. So that actually affected one game in particular, which I'll just talk about right off the bat, which is Stella and Stello. So they were supposed to play, but then they agreed. They agreed to play on Thursday. So by the time this comes out, they'll be playing like that night. So their result actually isn't like finalized. So then Sixers was able to play Stella earlier. And that was just because of things shifting around. So your results, plus minus of 60 for Sixers, they go 6-0. Obviously some resistance, but were able to kind of show that they were the top team. They took down Stello 13-6 and Stella 14-7. Taking a look at their result against their sister team in Incognito. Just want to see the scoreline for that one. They won 14-5. So they come first. Stella, they only dropped that one game to Sixers. Stello, they dropped one game as well because they didn't play Stella. So both teams finish tied, I guess you would call it, because they just haven't finished that other game. Incognito had a rough first day. I mean, they played some of the top teams there. They played Stello, Sixers, and Stella on day one, but they rebounded by winning their 3 games on Sunday. Lore goes 0-6 with PPF finishing 2-4, and Oz getting a W, a big one for them, defeating Lore 11-7. Yeah, there were Masters teams playing this tournament, but since it's round robin, I don't think it's as different there for them. We'll say that I got my first picks right there with Sixers and Stella finishing the way they did. I picked Incognito over Stella. and that did not work out for me. So I will admit that. I saw a meme. I mean, we reposted it, but I always take when people say, I got something wrong. So I had Incognito over Stello, but that was not the case. So now we're going to move into open. This one was a little bit spicier, a little drama llama, as we talked about earlier, because there were definitely games to go happening. So first, there was some pool play action, kind of like a mini bracket. And then we moved into like quarters that even started on Saturday. So no surprise, Go takes our pool quite easily. Pool D, GT comes in second. Phoenix, by their victory over Viper, still gets into the quarters. That was important. Pool E, Phoenix takes it. Hound puts up a good fight, though. 15-11. So that's like a pretty big deal there for Hound to put up that scoreline. Have to give a shout out because this team was making me hear about it. One of my alma maters beat the other alma mater I played for. So Maverick, first of all, I said they hadn't beat a senior team so far this year. They actually had beat Roy in the past, and they beat them again. So that shows their abilities, and I got to give some love for them as they basically effectively end Roy's CUC hopes by beating them because they get a spot into the quarters. Pipe wins their pool. Too Bad comes second. So now we have our quarters set up, and yeah, things go to seed there, even though I didn't pick that. So I had GT and Too Bad winning. Did not work out, but Go takes care of business. Phoenix the same. Pipe gets a comfortable 5-point win over GT, and then Hound squeaks by Too Bad 13-10. The semis go the way of the top seeds, and then Go defeats Phoenix in the final 14-13. Wish I had a chance to watch this game, but once again, I was playing, so not able to. But it seemed like, from what I heard, a pretty close one. Phoenix actually had a chance on the doorstep, was called not in, and then ill-advised. I'm going to say ill-advised Scuba doesn't work out for the team from Ottawa, and then Go able to work it down and win this game. So Go takes it again, but it wasn't as easy as some thought it might be. Now, this is where it gets tricky because people are fighting for their lives. There's a third place bracket or play-in kind of thing. So Too Bad defeats Maverick to get there. GT beats Phoenix. And now we have Pipe versus Too Bad and Hound versus GT. And losing this game doesn't mean you're out. You still have a chance, but it's going to make it a little bit harder potentially. So Pipe and Hound take care of business. GT suffers a close 3-point game to Hound, and then Too Bad not close against Pipe. So we have the game to go, and I don't know, as I was not watching this one, if Hound went with all their stars or if they went kind of rolly lines. My opinion is you kind of feel out where the game's at. You kind of play it straight, and then if things start to go awry, then you just go roll lines and then get ready for the next game to go, because you definitely don't want to do the lose, see ya, okay? So Pipe takes that one. They get the third bid as predicted, so I get the first 3 seeds correct, so I got to pat myself on the back here. But here's where it gets spicy. There's a game to go play in between Too Bad and GT. Our game just finished up, so I'm dashing over to the turf fields to kind of see what's going on. And I get a chance to see Too Bad on defense out here. And first of all, I want to say there was the weirdest play I've ever seen. So David Murray has the disc on the goal line. It's a high stall situation. It's on our Instagram, so you can watch it. He throws the disc off of the other player in the chest and tries to basically catches it, jumps in the end zone and says that he was in. And when I was filming it, I was like, what is going on? Like, there's no way that's kosher. Like, that's allowed. And it definitely wasn't. So they called it, the observers there ruled it a self-pass and turnover. Unfortunately for GT and the GT fans in the crowd, there was a flub catch less than 10 yards outside the end zone. Too Bad punches it in. Now they're up 1. GT scores and holds to force Universe. So Too Bad on offense, and Too Bad able to work it up despite multiple bids. They kind of ran the same line for GT. Despite multiple bid efforts, Too Bad able to get a break within a round from Jack Daly to Murray, who toes the line for the score, ending GT season. And I was doing a lot of fact checking here, asking multiple, and I'm talking multiple sources. But from what I gather, I could be proven wrong if someone wants to jump in the YouTube chat or whatever, or send us a message. But I believe this is the first time ever that GT has not made nationals. So they finished third all the way back in 2018. They won in 2016, but this is the first time that the GT program is not going to nationals. So pretty significant for them. It would have been the same for TT from my knowledge. But of course, they're still going. So that sets up a game to go with Too Bad and Hound. I kind of, once again, was playing. So I dropped in right near the half. The half seemed to have taken a while here. There was a very long point for half. And from what I saw, Hound did get the break and we're up 7-5. And I think that really set the course for the rest of the game here, as they were up a bit. And then I just stopped filming because I wanted to go check out the mixed game to go. But Hound able to, I'm not going to say it was easy cruising, but they definitely showed that they were the stronger team at that moment. And one of the things with the pickup team like Too Bad is if you're like not practicing and I don't know, as grinding with your teammates, you might not that you're not going to go hard, but it's just a little different than if you're out here grinding with the teammates for the whole year. So Too Bad's in this sticky situation. There's people still just chilling under the tent. There's no real sideline happening in the same way that you would on other teams. So perhaps that plays a foil into them, but Hound gets the last bid. They proved me wrong for sure. I got some messages about that, and I'll wear that on the head. Hound, a lot of people said you were rebuilding this year, and you kind of proved some people wrong. So congrats to you for going to nationals. Let's go mixed division here. Different like funky pool like setup. Crash takes their pool with ease. They get themselves into the quarters, and so does Mixed Berries. And that was kind of the game that I said to watch. Mixed Berries won 15-8 over Zen, so they didn't really leave any doubt there, at least in Saturday play. In Pool J, Union ekes out a victory over Danger Noodle. Both teams set up in the quarters. Union wins 11-9. In Pool K, Local 613 takes care of business and wins their pool with KWG getting a 6-point win over Wine Club to get themselves into the quarters. And then in Pool M, a rematch of some things that happened at Turing Tune-Up. Crank gets a 5-point win. They got a lot of their players back. They have the season series so far. And yeah, this is a team to watch out for, as you'll hear more about their results. Now, let's look at quarters. Okay, Crash defeats Danger Noodle 15-10. And once again, this was on Saturday. There were two different time slots happening for these quarters. Crank ekes out a 2-point win over KWG. Crux gets a 2-point dub over Local 14-12. A little bit of game of runs here with Local eventually breaking back and actually having the lead late in the game, but Crux breaking twice to win. So sweet victory for the team from Hamilton. Love their film setup, first of all, because they have like not as cool as Cube's setup. I'm not gonna lie to you, but they have a GoPro going on, and they have it hooked up. And a person who's on the line at that moment for that point has the responsibility of maneuvering it around. So love teams getting into game film. It was a fun game to play, but Crux takes it. Union defeats Mixed Berries 15-9. So we set up some real spicy semifinals, and in a game that I wouldn't surprise me that if you said Crank's going to beat Crash, but they beat them like by 5. So they really showed that they're one of the top mixed teams. I mean, we already knew that with their win. They won Frisbee Fest. They've done well this season, but they really cemented it with taking down the number 1 seed in the tournament. The team that won Tux and Crash, they won by 5, and just like that's an emphatic win for Crank. Union also gets an emphatic win. They take down Crux 15-6. Crux, they had that big quarterfinal victory I just mentioned, but Sunday was not their friend, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Union takes down Crank for the repeat championship here. Lots of turnover for this team, but hey, they got the moxie. They won heavyweights a week before regionals, and they go win regionals. So big shout out to them. Now, there's a game for third place. It's like the third place semis. That's where the losers of the quarters ended up. And so the higher seeds, Local and Danger Noodle, both win 15-7, that exact score line, setting up some third place semis. And that's against teams that just lost the semifinals. So Crash wins 14-6, and Crux falls to Danger Noodle 15-6. Both of these games were moved onto the turf because of the weather, as I mentioned. Both games not particularly close, and Danger Noodle and Crash then moving into the third place game where Crash were taking it, or did take it, 13-11. Danger Noodle was down a bunch and fought back, but weren't, you can say run out of time, but Crash won by 2. So Crash 1 seed doesn't fall too far. They still earn the third bid out of Ontario. And yeah, it was like, from my perspective, the game that we played against them, they had some players I hadn't heard of that were really stepping up. So some D-line players, specifically, I believe his name is Noah or Nolan, goes to Guelph, one of their D-line handlers. He did a really good job of moving the disc and facilitating things for Crash. So it's always fun to see some of the young talent out here, because though I'm playing, I'm also kind of like pseudo scouting and kind of just keep an eye out on stuff. So kind of nice to see what young players are stepping up. So if you were to lose that third place quarter, you're still in contention. There's kind of like a fifth place bracket after that. So this is where the teams that are still fighting for a bid are battling. And so the first play-in was Axiom versus Remix, 2-point win for Axiom. And then Zen and Thunder win their games, which sets up Mixed Berries versus Thunder and KWG versus Zen. And so I think people might have had certain favorites in this game, but it's Thunder who gets a 2-point win, ending Mixed Berries season. Mixed Berries is a team I said that might be fighting for the last bid with Zen. And Zen does get the win. I heard a very contentious game, just at least from one team's perspective, just based on kind of the spirit circles that happened afterwards in our spirit circle with Zen. But it was a close victory for them, and that puts them in a proverbial game to go. So if you win this next game, which is the fifth place semis, you are going to nationals. And so Local and Crux both win by the same score line, 15-8. So I'm not sure if those teams involved were just rolling lines, but at some point you kind of have to think about the game to go and not just getting into the fifth place game. So that sets up Crux versus Local 613 fifth place game. Both teams agreed to a shortened game, which I was very excited about because then I could go watch some of the other action happening. So it was a game to 10 or just an hour. So the scoreline ended up 10-4. Local just kind of being quote unquote dogs on defense, really pressuring things and making life difficult. And it resulted out in an early lead and able to ride that for the win. So really fun to play that game. And like I said, for the Cruxers, for Crux, just a Sunday, a little bit to forget here. They were in the semifinals and they fall all the way to 6th. So you kind of have this like aspirations like, hey, we might be able to get first or second out of the province here. And then you fall all the way to 6th. But once again, seeding is somewhat important, but hey, there's a lot more Frisbee to be played. So we know Crux will be back in action. And going to take a lot from this, and because of their film, they're going to be ready to go. Their filming is going to help them. So that sets up a game to go here between Thunder and Zen. And as I was taking in some of the open game to go, I tried to rush over to see what was happening in the mixed, and the fields were not close together. So one was kind of in that swampy area, the other was on turf. So you kind of have to hustle a little bit to get there. Did see Thunder score the last point to win, 14-9. And so they're going to nationals. They already memed it a bit, which is fine. That's your choice. Not something I would do, but hey, you do you. But Thunder gets the win, and they're going to nationals. And this is a team I don't even think I mentioned them when I said the game to watch out for. I said it was going to be Zen and Mixed Berries. I didn't even talk about them. I talked about Remix and Axiom. So from not on the radar to going to nationals, pretty cool for the Kitchener-Waterloo players. They're the second team out of the Crash system. So we'll give them some love for that. They're going to nationals. There are also some spirit standings. I'm not going to talk too much about that just because this episode is going to continue to get pretty long here. But there are spirit standings that you can look at if you have access to the schedule document. Fuel gets first out of Junior Open. Chain Reaction gets first out of junior women's. A bunch of teams got DQ'd. It's not because they hate Spirit, but it's because they either didn't send their scores in or didn't give explanations for scores they gave. So that's what happens. In mixed, everyone's favorite Wine Club gets first in Spirit, and a lot of these scores are pretty high anyway. So somewhat inflated, I guess. But Wine Club gets a 12.2, so pretty high up there. It goes Wine Club, Crux, Thunder, Local 613. Mixed Berries takes 5th in Spirit, but there are 4 teams DQ'd, and if they weren't DQ'd, they would have had high scores. It's because of I'm seeing some late submissions out here for some of these teams. Been told this is a bit of a Spirit redemption arc here, but Pipe gets first in Spirit. I believe they were last, if I'm not mistaken, or close to last off the top of my head at Jazz Fest. So I did say a little bit about that, and so hey, now they got first in Spirit in this game. They do get some inflated 15s, though. I will say that. I believe that came from Too Bad. So those 15s definitely help them. And we've said this before. If one team plays a certain team multiple times that has inflated Spirit scores, that's what's going to happen. Hound gets second, so nice to see that. Goose third. GT gets 4th, and then Phoenix 5th in Spirit. Viper, Maverick, and Phoenix are DQ'd. Let's see here. PPF gets first in Spirit, Incognito second, and Lore third. There's also some DQs happening as well, so some late submissions from Sixers, Stello, Oz, and Stella. So Spirit standings, take them for what you will, especially when they're being docked for late submissions and it doesn't count. So there's also a chart of number of submissions with an error. So, hey, you got to fill out the Spirit sheets properly and on time, and then you can get in the Spirit standings. So anywho, we're going to jump in. Not going to take a break. We're just going to jump right into it, which is the No Borders preview. So No Borders is pretty exciting because this is a tournament in the East that some teams are flying in for that we don't normally see. I personally am really excited to see PBHG and Spawn in the mixed division just because we don't play them, if ever, until Nationals, if you do. So kind of cool to see what's going on there. So we're going to start with women's. I'm going to go through each pool and then talk about sort of the format and then make some picks after that. Of course, as always, I always got to give this caveat. I will not be picking the mixed division as I play in it. So kind of makes sense. Pretty self-explanatory. So Pool A has the 1 seed overall, Stella, Valkyrie, the 8 seed, and then Karma, Quebec team, as the 9 seed. So Stella obviously had a strong regionals. Their only loss was to Sixers at that tournament. Didn't play Stello. Valkyrie came 6th at regionals. Their only win was to EXO out of Sherbrooke, a team they're seeded above in this tournament. And then Karma had a big 12-11 win over Momentum at Jazz Fest. So Karma is the second team out of the Quebec City system, as I was told by Phil Dorval, so the development team out of there. So that's your Pool A. Pool B has Cube out of Quebec City. This team is 16-1 in their 3 tournaments they've played. The only team they lost to is Iris, who is not at this tournament. So they're a pretty strong team out here. Oz out of Ottawa, by my calculations, has not beat an adult touring team this season. They beat Lore, but they have not beaten like a team that they'll play at this tournament specifically or other senior teams. So, this is where they get to have some teams. Like the field has some strong teams and then some more development teams. So perhaps if Oz isn't able to win that game against Cube, then they can play some teams where they're also kind of growing and learning. So that'll give them some opportunities here. They have a couple wins in this season, Callan for kids as well, but just not against senior women's teams. And then we have EXO to round things out of Sherbrooke. As I mentioned, they have a big win over Karma, but they're seated below them, just 1 spot at 10. They're 2-2 on the year with Momentum out of Montreal, who's seeded a few seeds ahead of them. So EXO is the 10 seed, Oz the 7 seed of this tournament. Pool C now, we have Aguada, team out of Gatineau Masters, the 3 seed overall, Momentum the 6 seed, and then Wicked West Juniors, what's up? The 11 seed overall, 3rd seed in the pool. So Aguada finished 4th at Jazz. They split the series so far at Jazz with PPF. they lost to PPF for third, 11-8, but they also beat them in pool play. They also hold a dub over Momentum. Momentum finished fourth at regionals, which is a good result for this new team out here. And talked about the score differential for Wicked West. I mean, they're really dominant in the junior women's, and now they're trying to cut their teeth out in the senior women's division. So looking forward to seeing if they can hang with some of these senior women's teams and get a couple dubs on the weekend, get ready for junior nationals. So Pool D, we have Salty out here out of Halifax. They have PPF in their pool out of KW, North, and then Volt. So they've had a lot of turnover from what I hear. They have a lot of turnover. This team did play Worlds, but it's a different team. So we'll see how they do. PPF, I think they're a clear tier kind of below a team like Incognito. They've lost 3 times to them, but I think they're going to surprise some teams at this tournament. They're 1-1 with the 3 seed overall. Aguada North from North Bay was told from their roster submission that they played CUC Masters last year. Did drop the head-to-head matchup with PPF at Tux, and then Volt is the 3rd team out of the Montreal system. So we're going to go into picks. Obviously, I'm not going to go through every pick I make, but the way this is set up is there's kind of like a power pooly kind of setup after you go through pool play. So if you finish like first in Pool E and Pool F, first and second, you'll go into the semis. And then if you finish third and fourth in those power pools, you go into the 5th place semis. So I have in my semis, I have Stella, Aguada, Cube, and Salty. Salty, you have the turnover. I hope you can prove my pick right, but I have Stella and Cube in the final. I actually have Cube winning. I think that their loss against Iris maybe fired them up a little bit, and will get them ready for this tournament. And I have Aguada finishing 3rd here, Salty 4th. And then I'm going to pick PPF to finish 5th over Valkyrie. So those are my picks. This kind of leads me to talking about the regionals picks contest. Thank you for all of those who have entered. Like, pretty fun that we had that. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. So really appreciate people doing that. So that's women's division. That's a little bit easier than all the other divisions I'm going to discuss because there's just a lot more going on. So open, let's jump into open right now. Okay, a record 20. First of all, there's 62 teams at this tournament. So call it a mega preview. Why don't you? There's 23 teams in open. I'm going to say at least a line about each team. That's my goal. Okay, I did that with women's. That's my goal here. Even if it's just to say where they're from, at least I'll mention every team. Okay. So how this is set up is we're going to first talk about the 2 power pools. So we have Pool U and Pool V power pooled. So we have Still, the 1 seed overall, GT, the 4 seed overall, Quake, the 5 seed, and then Out, the 7 seed. Okay, so let's talk about that pool. Still, they won Masters last year pretty handily, I would say. They're going to Pan Ams. Was told that they might not have all their players this weekend, so you might see some different people. It might not even be Masters eligible players, and it doesn't matter because there's not a Masters division, so they can pick whoever they want. They are the number 1 seed. GT, you're looking to bounce back from Ontario Regionals. You have to wonder for not just this team, I think a lot of the teams, No Border's a fun tournament out here, and there's a tournament party. So you can expect that some teams aren't going to be their best on Sunday morning. I'm just going to say that right now. I'm not saying it's for this team specifically. I'm saying for a lot of these teams in all the divisions, you can expect some hanging out, having some beverages of some kind on Saturday night. So we'll see what shape they're in Sunday morning is all I'm going to say. They do have a head-to-head win over Quake. Remember that. Quarterfinals of Jazz Fest, okay? Quake, they lost in the finals to Mephisto at Quebec Regionals, but they defeated everyone else at that tournament. 3 losses on the year only, and that's to GT, Mephisto, and Ensom. So that's what they've done so far this past season. We have now Out of Gatineau. They did not qualify for Nats, but they do have a head-to-head win over GT in semis of Jazz Fest. Okay, now Pool V, Pipe. They have losses. I will tell you that. They've lost to Quartz, Red Circus, and Phoenix on the year. That's their only 3 losses. They've won Tux and Jazz and got the 3rd bid of Ontario. Red Circus, this is the team that has beaten Pipe, but they've also lost to them. They lost to them in the semis of Jazz Fest. They were second at No Borders last season, and they're coming for the title. So that might tip off my picks here, but they're coming for the title. This is Red Circus team. CUC, Quebec City Masters. They are the 3rd seed in this pool, the 6th seed overall. Red Circus is the 3rd seed overall. Okay, and then they're the second team. They're the Quebec City Masters team. They finished 2nd in Masters in 2022, and they're getting ready for Pan Ams. And then we have Quartz, the 8th seed overall, last seed in the pool. They are the 2nd team out of Quebec City. They do have a loss to Red Circus in pool play, but they defeated Pipe in pool play at Jazz Fest. They finished 5th at Quebec Regionals, defeating Out. Both of those teams were eliminated at that point, but hey, that's still a victory over a team that's also in the power pools here. So once you get out of the power pools, you have these smaller pools. We're going to start with Pool W. That's a pool of 3. Okay, so we have Loyal out of the Laval area. They're the 9 seed overall. We have Mesa out of Montreal, the Club M system, 15. And then Phoenix, the 17 seed overall. Loyal seated above Magma and have 2 wins over them. They're 2-1 on the season over that Magma team who's seated 10th, which we'll talk about shortly. Mesa had a Quebec Regionals to forget a little bit, but they do have a win over the team in their pool, Loyal. So upsets could happen out here. Phoenix, kind of the theme of what I just said for Mesa, a disappointing OUC. Just a tough tournament for them. Their only win was over Viper. They had some tough losses to Maverick and Roy, respectively, on the 2nd day of the tournament. Now, Pool X, we got the 10 seed Magma. They're the 1st seed in the pool. They have a head-to-head win over Madhouse this season. So I like the connectivity when a team like Madhouse comes and plays like Jazz and these other tournaments, because then you get to see them, which is cool. Yeah, that's super fun. Now, Roy's also in this pool. They are the 16 seed overall. I'm just going to check to see if Magma and Roy have played each other this season. I don't think they have, but it's always good to double check. And once again, I keep referencing this document. Hopefully one day this will eventually see the eyes of others. But yeah, it's a pretty cool thing that we have. So anywho, they have not played yet. So Magma, Roy, that'll be a good matchup. And then Madhouse is in there. In consolation play, they defeated teams like Rage and T-Rex. T-Rex is seated above them, so that's a good dub to have. And there's also the High Skiers. So they're out of Kitchener-Waterloo. Yeah, I mean, cool name. Not going to know too much about them, but maybe they could surprise, I guess. I'm just double checking where I think they've played Maydays and did kind of decent. So, yeah, High Skiers, Kitchener-Waterloo. That's all I can say for them. Okay. Now we have Maverick headlining Pool Y out here at this tournament, okay? So Maverick's the 11th seed overall, finished 7th regionals, just below GT there. Quezon, the 3rd team out of Quebec City, the 14th seed overall. They have wins over Mesa and Magma, who are both seated above them. Monster, some league players out of Toronto, Durham. They're the 19th seed, and to round out that pool, there's Chair. I've been told they're a mix of players from Queens B, XU Ottawa, and some players who have been playing Rex. So we'll see how they do. Pool Z, the 1st seed in the pool, 12th seed overall, is Ignite. So the junior open team out of Ottawa stepping up into the senior division. They were undefeated at OUC. Had mentioned that close win over Toro, so they're hoping to continue that momentum here. Toro Rivieres, T-Rex, the 2nd seed in the pool, 13 overall. A couple wins over Mesa, win over Rage. And then Rage is also Club M. They're the 20 seed overall. They do have a W over Magma. And then Goose, the Goosers on a KW, rounding out the field. There's 22 seed overall. Their only big W's over the season are over Uproar. Okay. So now pool play does matter here in some ways because it will get you into like how the pools work out. I'll go through how it is, and then I'll talk about some picks as well after that. So pool winners, if you're a pool winner out here, you get a bye to semifinals. So win your pool, you're chilling into the semifinals, okay? If you finish second or third in your power pools, you do a play-in for first, so you cross over, okay? The fourth place finishers of each power pool, they go into the fifth place. I'm going to say it's fifth place quarters out here. And then there is some other like finagling out here. So basically, if you are the lower pool and you win, the best you can fight for fifth, but you can't win first. Okay, it's just the way that it's designed. So the winners and second of each lower pool face off in the fifth place pre-quarters. And then from there, we have like fifth place quarters, semis, and finals, and all of that good stuff. Ninth place semis is the losers of the fifth place quarters, and they'll play for the Sean Green Memorial Cup. The Keith White Trophy is what the teams playing for first will be going for. So my picks out of pool play, we'll talk power pool specifically. So I have Still winning the pool, Quake getting revenge dub over GT, and then out rounding out that pool. For pool V, I have Red Circus winning the pool, Pipe coming in second, Quack, and then Quartz rounding out that pool. Pool winners, I have for the lower pools, I have all the top seeds winning that one. Except for Ignite, I have T-Rex winning, showing their experience here. Now, semis picks, or the play-in at first, I have Pipe beating GT, the Quake over Quack, so that sets up semifinals between Pipe and Still, and Red Circus and Quake. And this will be early morning, so we'll see which teams show up. But I have Red Circus and Pipe winning, and Red Circus winning the whole tournament, getting some revenge on the Pipers from Toronto. And then I have Quake beating Still. Maybe this will fire up some stuff in Still, but I have them coming in fourth, Quake coming in third. I have Out coming in fifth, and then Maverick defeating Loyal, the way my bracket works out, coming in ninth. So you thought open was big. Wait until you get to mixed division. So we're going to round out this mega preview with mixed talk. 20, wild out here. 26 teams, folks. A lot of teams out here. Like I said, I'm going to try to speak a line about every single one if possible, even if it's for like a short couple seconds. So first off, we're going to talk pools, of course. The way it's set up, there's like power pools up to 12, and then after that, there's like a lower pools. So there's 4 pools of 3 in the power pools. Your first pool is Pool H, PBHG. They're the first seed overall. They placed second at Nationals. They're obviously a perennial top mixed team. They went to Worlds, came second out of the tournament in Wisconsin this past season, returned a lot of the same players. I hope, beyond hope, that my team gets to play them this weekend. I'm really excited for them just to be there. Trade with me, PBHG. That's my claim to you. Trade with me. So now we have Crux. Already talked about how it was a tough regionals for them, but they're looking to bounce back. Okay, they came third at Turing Tune-Up. They won Mayday, so this team, they got the resolve out here, and it's hard because for a lot of these Ontario teams, this is like a week after the tournament they just played in regionals. That's pretty hard, especially 4 games at the end of the day. Not a fan of that, is all I'll say. I'm not going to talk too much about the format, but yeah, that was tough. So Crux is a team looking to bounce back. They're the 8th seed overall, and then to round out their pool is Quest, the 9 seed, 5th at Quebec Regionals, 5th at Frisbee Fest, have not been a team seed above them at No Borders. Okay, so that's their pool. We have Pool I out here. Crank is going to headline this pool. They're the 2 seed overall, and that's what happens when you finish second in Ontario regionals and the team above you in Union is not at this tournament. They won Frisbee Fest. They are trying to just continue to bolster their CUC resume and try to get a decent seeding. And they can do that if they can come in first in this tournament. Local 613, 5th at regionals. Yet to play Crank this season, so that is a marquee matchup to watch for. During that Saturday is those 2 teams going at it. Local, the 7 seed overall. And then to round out the pool is Swift Fox out of Sherbrooke. Their only win this season is over Harfang 2. They're the 10 seed overall. Now, Pool J. Spawn, New Brunswick. welcome. You finished top 8 at Nationals last season. Tough quarterfinal loss to Danger Noodle was a great game that I got the pleasure to call. They lost 13-6 to the U24 mixed team at Mixed Easterns, but hey, they hold a 15-11 win over Crash at that same tournament. So they are seated above them, perhaps for that reason. Red Fox, the 6th seed overall, 8th at Mixed Eastern. So they were also at that tournament. They suffered losses to Harfang and Cold at Quebec Regionals. Otherwise, they're a team that could crack a semis potentially at this tournament. And then the 11th seed overall, Thunder, KW, they're going to CUC. See if they can push their seeding, because obviously they'll be the last seed of Ontario, but maybe that could change if they do really well at Novo. I'm not sure. I know those results get taken into account. Now, Crash is the 4 seed. They won Tux. They're 3rd at regionals. They only have 2 losses in Canadian tournaments. I'm not going to talk about Mixed Easterns. I'm talking about the tournaments they played here on home soil. Their only losses being to Crank and Big Cat. Harfang, that's a tough draw for Crash because they're the number 1 seed from Quebec champions. They had a big win over Red Fox 14-9 at that tournament. And then Mixed Berries looking to bounce back after a disappointing OUC. They're the 12th seed overall. Now let's go into lower pools where the seeding and teams are going to be more spread out. So we have Zen, who's just under the cut line at 13. Lost in the game to go. Chance to battle up. Okay. Harfang 2, the 2nd team out of Saint Jean sur Richelieu. And then Leverage, the Crank B team out here out of Ottawa. Pool N. This is a team I need you to keep an eye out on. It's Tea Party. I actually got their roster. And it's a lot of touring players out here, okay, that played Union, Sixers, Danger Noodle, Incognito, some non-touring players, but there are some names that you'd recognize. I'm not going to out their roster on the air, but just this Tea Party team is not a 14 seed, is all I'm saying, okay? Axiom, the 19 seed overall, is in their pool as well, the Crank B team. And then the Giants, 22 seed overall, first ever time at this tournament. There's going to be some experienced players, but some rec players as well. They're all the way from Thunder Bay. So I assume you're not driving Giants. You're flying in. So that's pretty fun. Pool P, Ragnarok out of Saint-Therese, Quebec. They did play one of these Quebec tournaments and finished 3rd. And so they have defeated Harfang 2 and Swift Fox. So I think there might be a tier above them and just a tier below some of these other the top mixed teams in Quebec there. They also have Remix. They are that Toronto development team. They do have a win over Zen this season. Don't forget that. Out on Bail, the 23 seed overall. Outaouais, Quebec, a young team. And then local YGK rounds out the pool and the tournament as the 26th seed. They're the development team out of Kingston. Wishing them the best of luck, of course. And then Pool Q, Skyflix. They're the ones who actually finished 3rd, not High Flyers, whatever the other team, High Skyers. It's actually Skyflix. Their first touring was at Maydays, where they finished 3rd. They have defeated Remix, and they're 1-1 against Zen. So, hey, watch out for Skyflix out here, the 16th seed overall. Kombucha Culture, the last seed out of Quebec for Nationals, out of Montreal, 17 seed. Then there's Elder and Friends, so it's not full Elder team. They're, of course, getting ready for CUC Masters. And then Snack Time, some intermediate league and competitive touring players rounding out the pool, 25 seed overall. So bracket in the mix. Holy smokes. This is going to be a little bit confusing for some people. You're gonna try to follow along out here. So power pool winners and runner-ups, the 1st and 2 seeds in the power pool. So theoretically, the top 8 teams, they're going to cross over and play each other in a pre-quarter. The lower team is not eliminated. Okay? They're not eliminated. Now, what happens is, if you lose, you go to another pre-quarter. If you win, you get a bye to quarters, which is actually going to help you. Because then you don't have to play like an early game on Sunday. You would start at 10:10 instead of 8:30. And you know that parking situation at UPI can be a little tricky. So if you can get there early, it's nice. So 3rd place power pool plays a pre-quarter against the lower pool winners. So if you're able to win your lower pool, you have a chance to play up into this upper bracket here. So those games will happen at 4 o'clock on Saturday. Okay. Now, winners of the pre-quarter. Okay. So that's, winners of the pre-quarter play against the loser of the first pre-quarters. So it's the lower pools getting a chance to win against a team that lost, and that kind of crossover at 2:30 on Saturday. So you have the winners of the 4 o'clock games, the pool 3, and the first of the lower pools against the loser of that 1-2 happening at 2:30. Those games will take place at 8:30 in the morning. Okay. Once that takes place, that pre-quarter takes place, then we go into traditional quarters. Theoretically, you should end up with the same like top 8 teams, but that's where this format allows the lower teams, the lower pool winners, to come up and sneak in and take down one of the top 8 teams and have a chance to make quarters. So there is a possibility there. So if you lose that pre-quarter versus the top lower pool, you're in the 13th pool. If you lose the second pre-quarter, the one on Sunday morning, then you're in the 9th place semis, which kind of makes sense. You'd be fighting for 9th, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. This bracket is a little bit trickier. It helps if you can visualize it. But all the teams will be playing for the Greg Fielding Cup. I'm not sure if there's a trophy for 9th. Looks like there's not one listed. But there's a lot of teams in this tournament. So, lots of games to be had and some buys. And then a winner will be crowned. I'm just going to use all cliche statements out here to round out this long episode. That's the preview. Once again, I'm not going to make picks for mixed just because, I'm playing in it. So excited to see all the different teams spawn out here, flying in, Giants, PBHG, Red Circus, all these teams coming in. Salty from far away. We love that. Come say hi. Maybe I'll try to get some trades going as well. Of course, I'll be doing that at Nationals. Thank you again for following us on socials, liking the graphics and all the things happening. Really seeing a growth in that, especially, more specifically on Instagram. So very thankful and happy for that. So keep that up. We do appreciate it. Next week, obviously recapping this tournament and talking what happens with Masters Nationals, and then also in the US, and then getting ready for Canadian Masters Nationals as well. So lots to talk about. Stay tuned for subscriber only. I think I'm just going to talk about what it means to qualify for Nationals because I haven't qualified since 2016. So maybe I'll share some stories, some regional stories in there and some fun times. Fun but sad times, but also just some reflection. So stick with me there and subscriber only. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.